right, Black and White Network supporters. Well, I felt the need to do this video because I spent many years, maybe too long, maybe not long enough. Well, I'm glad I'm out now, but working in the corporate world and managing relatively high level in the corporate world, in my opinion, and relatively high level. But I chose to remain in my immediate area, which probably cost me a hell of a lot of money. In fact, I know it did. I know it did because I got some job offers that were in places like Dallas and Houston and Little Rock, and I came real close to taking that Little Rock gig for what would have been a lot of money, especially back around 2000, 2001, 2002, to manage. I had 12 managers under me, about 1,000 people. That I was overseeing in a very large production floor. I also had quality assurance people that I was over. So I saw this and was like, wow. And this is exactly the reason why I probably would not want to be in the game now, because when myself and Mr. Matrix, we went live the day that the George Floyd thing actually happened. And I told John, I said, you do realize everything is going to be ruined now. And what I meant by that was you were going to get people elevated into places, or products elevated into places that there was going to be no call for. You were going to have people get jobs that they really and truly weren't qualified for. No longer was the best people going to get jobs. It was going to be based on race. Now, entertainment also fell off the deep end. Everything became, a BLM section showed up on Amazon Prime, and Netflix had a Black Lives Matter section or something like that. All your entertainment, we just thought things had went woke. It shifted into overdrive. So this article just came out by way of Outkick, and it pretty much proves that I'm right. And I can't imagine working for corporate America now. There are times I do miss it, and it definitely has served me well in this job. But wow, here we are. Now I've got a buddy of mine that's still in the game right now, and I've talked to him about this. I talked to him about it last year, and said company that he works for, a very large wireless company, they have sent all their employees through your standard operating DEI training sessions, on the job training sessions, and put them on notice that essentially, you've got to watch what you say. You got to watch how you deal with customers now. A lot of different ways to lose your gig. All right, because of things that are perceived as now racist or whatever, and somehow, some way, this can come out, and it's not considered racist? Question mark? Just wondering. This is Bobby Burack. He says in July they introduced the idea of excused racism, the presumption that society must discriminate against a certain white people to reach racial impartiality. What? One can find examples of excused racism across corporate America, the media, academia, and Washington. We know what's going on with liberal universities. We've discussed it many times. A Bloomberg study reveals that 94% of new corporate jobs go to non-white employees. That's 94 out of 100 people, folks, if you're keeping score at home. The trend started, wait for it. How about this? The death of George Floyd in 2021. Quote, Floyd's murder, companies adopted several practices to hire and retain unrepresented workers, including establishing leadership development programs and training managers in inclusive practices. We've seen all the things. I've done a video. I did a video just a couple of weeks ago about NASCAR and the fact that they've got programs that exclude straight white males. It's just out there. NASCAR racing, folks. And these programs exist. Best Buy, we've called out. These programs exist across all of these corporate entities now. They're also getting better at identifying broader pools of job candidates, said Donald Knight, Chief People Officer at Greenhouse Software, which helps companies with equitable hiring practices, writes Bloomberg. You know, I find this weird because at least I know in the corporate environment I worked in, probably 50% of my employees were black. Okay, that was normal. Okay, and because of that, you had a close to a 50-50 split. We had a ton of African Americans in managerial roles. You know, one of my mentors was a black lady, and she was a total badass at her job. A real junkyard dog, had her shit completely together. She was more than qualified for the job that she had. Deservingly so, by the way. And which is why she got the job. She could do the job. But we didn't hand a single solitary person over the years a job over skin color of any sort. Because you know what that would have been? That would have been called racism. Well, here it just, hey, racism is going to be accepted. I guess get used to it. White people make up 76% of the population. 76 out of 100 people just happen to be white. But just 6% of new hires. Wow. Your whiteness disqualifies you from job openings and promotions. It's called equity. It's called racism. S&P 100 companies need not even review the applications of white people any longer. A recent update to LinkedIn Employment Services allows recruiters to filter job candidates by race. Are you kidding me? Wow. Okay. Why would it even cross your mind? If you're in human resources and it crosses your mind that I need to filter job candidates by race, then promptly remove yourself from the job because you're not qualified. You're seeing things that you should not see when it comes to looking at your available potential candidates for promotion and or new hires. Remove yourself from the spot. You've got a bias. You don't need to be there. I've done a lot of hiring, folks. You certainly should not be in the position if this is a thing. You can put air quotes around that. Corporations discriminate against white people for clout. DEI, ESG programs. They are incentivized financially to do so, probably by something funded by a Soros somewhere. There's a Soros in the woodpile. Executives receive bonuses based on, quote, diversity hirings. There are year-end quotas to meet now. Wow. Holy crap. Hire a certain amount of non-white people, or you're going to fail your quota and you're going to get penalized. Guys, there needs to be a meteoric, massive, volcanic rise of lawsuits against these companies for discrimination all across the country. And unfortunately now in our judicial system, you're going to have to worry about whether or not that's going to have a political bias in it that's going to end up siding with these corporations. A spokespeople for Nike, Amazon, CVS declined to discuss the data, but said they were committed to diversity and inclusion as a report. Companies are also beholden to a system called ESG, environmental, social, and corporate governance. It's the damn devil. ESG assigns a company a score that firms like BlackRock, oh God, the rottenest roosters in the hen house, use to determine how much they will invest in it. The S represents a company's commitment to diversity and inclusion. ESG incentivizes corporations to prioritize skin color over competence in their hiring practices. In 2017, the CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, described ESG as a means to, quote, force behaviors. The exclusion of white people in the hiring process is certainly a forced behavior. It should not be even a 0.01% of your priority when hiring somebody, skin color that is. This takes place within the framework of civil rights law, but cultural and ideological pressure had a profound effect on behavior above and beyond any legal requirements, said an astute Christopher F. Rufo. Excused racism doesn't steer society towards a place of racial impartiality. In fact, the idea has made us a more racist society in which skin colors define us. Absolutely. When race is a person's main identifying characteristic, a person has no true identity. Apparently, race is the only identifying characteristic that matters in the hiring process. Whoa. Yeah. That's where we're at, folks. You know, it used to be there was a tiebreaker somewhere if you were looking at two candidates and they were very similar. Now you can bet your ass the white person in the room is getting left behind there. You know? And contrary to popular belief, if you're black or some other non-white color, no, people did not sit in a room and go, well, let's just hire the white one. That didn't happen. That's actually not a thing that ever happened in the history of ever. Okay, maybe in the 50s and 60s or the 40s or the 30s. But I assure you, in the late 90s on through the mid 2000s and into the late 2000s, it was not certainly one thing that ever happened in a single environment I was ever a part of. In fact, the notion of even whispering something like that would get your ass walked out by a security guard. Or me, if you thought you were Brody enough, you know. You thought you were a little too rowdy, they would call me to escort you out back in those days. The security guards would. But that's another story for another day. This is unbelievable. It's not surprising now. It's right out in the open. I could decide to come out of retirement and I've got a resume this long and I probably couldn't get a gig now. I mean, my God, red hair, Irish, son of a bitch, we're never hiring you again, ever. Country accent, nah, I could forget it. Now, don't get me wrong, around here I would probably have a better shot, but I could forget about going to a big city and doing it because no, they're not going to put this cracker into that slot. All right? It's just not going to happen now. And I'm glad to be out of it. And by the way, I was talking about my buddy still in the game, and they've talked about that also includes these diversity inclusion programs that shoves all kinds of sexual preferences into your face. Like they're literally teaching here in East Texas, if you work for one of these corporations, you better be able to know the theys and the thems and the hims and the ha-has and the hoo-hoos and the hee-hees or whatever else there is that you're supposed to know as part of the LGBTQ elemental P playbook. Because if you don't, your job's probably on the line now. I mean, but if you pray in the workplace, your ass getting walked out the door. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.